Hello everyone, my name is Clantis and welcome to the Iron Bars, my true crime YouTube channel. So guys, it has been quite some time since the last time we saw each other. I know that I dropped a video about a couple of weeks ago, basically to let you know what is going on in my personal life. And I can tell you that things are getting better and I'm starting to adapt back to normal life, if you want to put it that way. Yes, I suffered a great loss, but it's not the end of the world. Now I'm just going to celebrate the living. And of course, my loved ones will now be a wonderful memory in my mind. And I have no issues with that anymore. So I just want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you who have sent me messages of comfort and DMs and emails. I highly appreciate you guys, and I hope and pray that you will always be abundantly blessed in your lives. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I've got a wonderful community here on this channel, and let's keep going, guys, and supporting and loving each other. So without further ado, let's get into today's story, and it is a crazy one, and it is currently developing in South Africa. It involves a man who, this story is crazy. All I can say, it is so crazy. So many questions I have in my mind, and I'm sure many South Africans are like, huh, what? Did we just got played by someone? But anyways, let me get to the story. And please, I want to make a disclaimer before I started this story. This story, the information is subject to change as it is still a moving story. As I said, is developing. So what I'm going to say in this video, there are chances that a lot might have changed by the time this individual is caught. And also another thing that I also want to make a disclaimer of is that this guy's story is so crazy, so much so that every time you read something about him, it is different in another report, and it's different in another report. That also includes his date of birth. One report will say he was born in November of 1979, and another report will say he was born on the 13th of June 1988. Another report will say he was born in 1984 on the 4th of October or something like that. And also he went by 13 aliases, and one of those aliases is the current name that we know him as Thabo Bester. So maybe it's his real name, no one knows, but I doubt this is his real name, because the real Thabo Bester has come out to say he wants his identity back, because people are thinking that he is the Thabo Bester that is on the breaking news in South Africa. So who am I talking about? I am talking about a man. By the way, another third disclaimer that I want to make in this video, there are some words on YouTube that we are no longer allowed to use. For example, when a man forces himself on a woman is called a. So if you hear me say an apist, you might just know I'm talking about a man that forces himself on a woman. So this man is called the Facebook apist. So Thabo Bester is also known as the Facebook apist, and he is on the run. The way he escaped prison was so creative as far as I'm concerned. Of course, it's not I wouldn't say creative, because it is clear it is somebody that had a corrupt, elaborate plan on getting prisoners, especially those that are serving life, like Thabo Bester, out of jail by saying things that you are going to learn in this story. It is crazy, guys. It is crazy. So guys, you know that I like to go into the background of the perpetrator, their date of birth, their zodiac sign, and things like that. Like I said earlier, I tried to search Thabo Bester's background, but I only came back with this little. All that I could come up with is that Thabo Bester was born, let's say 1979 on the 13th of June. And secondly, what does that make him? So this makes him, why am I not surprised, a Gemini. So from what I could also find out is that Thabo Bester had a very difficult upbringing. He basically, I'm not quite sure if he had parents or did not have parents, because he says he never had a childhood whatsoever. So according to what I have read in the newspapers, he had both his parents, his mom and father, and both the parents were educators. So I was a little bit confused. How did he have a difficult life when he had two working parents, clearly coming from a loving home? I'm not quite sure if it was a loving home. However, Thabo Bester seems to have been like a vagabond, but also attended school. And from what I hear, he is described to be a very intelligent young man. When he was at school, he was acing all his subjects, and he had a creative mind as well, which is kind of like not surprising considering where we at right now. This guy is incredibly slicky, if you want to put it that way. So when he was a teenager, he would go into people's houses that he knows, and then he will walk away with something. So one of his petty crime days, he got arrested and he was prosecuted and sentenced to 6 months in prison. And I think when he got out of prison, he kind of like learned the trade of being a hardcore criminal, but he continued to attend school and he was doing pretty well at school, which is another thing that quite surprised me, that he is performing so well at school. Why couldn't he just choose a path that he was either going to typically study to become probably a doctor, an engineer, or a businessman? Because from what I can tell, he was business savvy. He had a mind of a businessman. So here's the first crazy thing that I found out about Thabo Bester. It is his 13 aliases. And let me give you a list of these aliases he was calling himself. So he is Thabo Bester, as is known in the media right now. He was also known as Thomas Bester, Tom Bester, Thabo M. Bester, Tom Kelly, Thomas Kelly Bester, Thomas Becker, TK, Thomas Kelly Young, Thomas Magagula, Thabo Magagula, Kelly Johnston, Rufus Mahubo, and Thomas Rufus Reddy. Those are the names that he ran with whenever he did his scams, because that's what he became as he was growing a little bit older. He started scamming people of their money. As he was getting away with these scams, he kind of like changed his modus operandi, where he was now targeting young, beautiful women. But the condition was the women must also be working women, working probably a good job where it's highly likely that she will have an expensive cell phone and she will also have a laptop. So to get these women, he would go onto Facebook and then probably speaks to the woman, flatter her, because he is also a good-looking man. So he would turn on his charms and he would charm these girls, and he would even tell them that he is a model agent or somebody that is scouting for models to go model in New York, Milan, and Paris, London, and all these places where the fashion houses are based. And of course, these girls will be flattered because some of them always wanted to be models. So once he has lured the woman into trusting him that indeed he was a model scout, then they would arrange a time to meet. So when he met these women, he would basically attack them, beat them to a pulp, and then Arab them, and then he would steal their cell phones and steal other valuables that they have, and he would go. So he was operating in 3 major cities in South Africa, that is Johannesburg, Durban, and Cape Town. So he would commit the apist as well as stealing these women's valuables. And then he would move to Durban, where he would do the very same thing. And then he would move to Cape Town and do the very same thing. And then go back to Johannesburg and does exactly the same thing. So as he was doing this type of crime, he was also accumulating wealth. So he was making money out of attacking these women and stealing from them. So much so that he was able to buy himself a BMW. And this BMW was sold to him by a beautiful young woman by the name of Nomfundo Chihulu. And basically he took a liking to her, and he also told her that she looked like a model, if she was interested in becoming a model. And if she was interested in becoming a model, he was the plug, basically. So Nomfundo, because she also wanted to be a model at some stage in her life, thought, oh my goodness, this good looking guy, he is basically telling me that I could become a supermodel in Paris. Somehow, Thabo Bester did not harm this woman at all. In fact, he put in a good word for himself, and therefore they started dating. And as they were dating and their relationship was becoming a little bit to the know each other's part, so he decided to take his new girlfriend to Cape Town. Basically, they hopped on the bus in Johannesburg to Cape Town. He says that on the way to Cape Town, because it's a 14 to 17 hour drive from Johannesburg to Cape Town, they got to know each other better, because they are confined in one spot for 14 to 17 hours. However, when they got to Cape Town, they were exhausted, so they checked into an Airbnb. This is in 2011, and somehow while they were staying at this Airbnb, an argument ensued, and Thabo Bester went out, came back with a knife, and then stabbed Nomfundo to death. And now we know Thabo Bester to have become a murderer. So he fled the scene after murdering Nomfundo, and he was on a run for a couple of days. However, his mind came back, and then he handed himself over to the police, and he was arrested. When he was arrested, I think he was arrested in Johannesburg, and so he had to be taken back to Cape Town, where he committed the murder. And when he got there, he didn't waste much time. He just confessed to the police that, listen, I did kill her, but it was not intentional. It was a spur of a moment or something like that, he told the police. And so he was asked if he would plead guilty or not guilty in court. He said no, he doesn't want to go through a lengthy trial, and also and put Nomfundo's family through pain and suffering, hearing of the details in court. So he definitely is guilty. And so because he confessed and also asked that he be sentenced as soon as possible, so as a result of that, he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison, even though he didn't think that he was going to be sentenced to life, considering the fact that it is his first murder, although he has had criminal records before. So he was sentenced to life, basically. So after he was sentenced to life imprisonment, he also told the police that he was also guilty of raping women in Durban, Cape Town, as well as Johannesburg, and so he would like to also face those cases, and he can start serving his sentences. Indeed, he did confess to the rapes of the women, even though in his explanation he says at the time when he was forcing himself onto these women, he did not know that he was forcing himself onto these women. He thought that they liked him and they had some kind of consensual sex. And so he only found out or realized after that he actually raped them. What? Okay, so anyways, he was then sentenced to 50 years collectively of these apists that he committed against these women. So crazy number 2. He tells, so Thabo Bester basically opens up about his background, that when he was growing up, he too was a rapist before, and he also thinks that because of the tough upbringing that he had, it turned him into the person that he had become. To me, that's crazy, because many of us had a really, really, really tough upbringing, but we have never caused pain onto another human being by apisting them as well as murdering them. So I found that excuse to be stupid and weak on his part, and I don't know what he thinks, if he's special than the rest of us. But so he tried to explain himself, and he also said that he does not feel that he should be guilty for taking the life of Nomfundo Chuhulu because he did not intended to kill her. I think he was trying to explain the definition of murder, because the definition of murder includes the intention of killing of another human being. So he says intention is absent. It was just an argument between him and his girlfriend that got out of hand, which resulted with her losing her life. So I don't know what you would call that. He doesn't have remorse or whatever the case is, but he tried to mansplain himself through that one. So it was quite clear that Thabo Bester, he was going to die behind the iron bars, because he was serving a life sentence in Cape Town, and also he was serving 50 years in prison. So he was shipped to Magaung Maximum Security Prison in the Free State, which is in the heart of South Africa. Now, this particular prison is not necessarily owned by the government of South Africa, even though it is regulated by the Correctional Services Act of South Africa. It is a privately owned and the second largest privately owned prison in the world, from what I understand. And it is guarded by a security company called G-Force, but it is written G4S, but it's pronounced G-Force. And so it's quite interesting of the things that takes place in this particular prison that I feel Thabo Bester exposed with his escape. So here is crazy number 3. So like I said, we woke up one morning 2-3 weeks ago to the story of Thabo Bester, who had basically escaped prison by lying that he had died in prison. So what had happened was, apparently on the 3rd of May 2022, a fire broke out in the Magaung Maximum Security Prison, and in one particular cell. So this one particular cell happens to be the cell of Thabo Bester, and a body was discovered once the fire was put out. The media got wind of the story that Thabo Bester is no more, and his wife as well as his mother had come to the prison basically to identify his body. His mother was asked to submit a DNA sample so that they could test that indeed this was Thabo Bester. However, though, when they did do the inmate count, I don't know what it's called, I think when they're counting the prisoners, all prisoners were accounted for except for Thabo Bester, and therefore the prison then ruled that Thabo Bester had died out of deleting himself, because that's how it was ruled, his death, that he basically offed himself. So of course, all of Thabo Bester's victims were informed about his passing, and the victims, of course, finally, they got some kind of closure and they thought they could move on with their lives. Well, that did not happen, because crazy number 3, and his body was then taken from the prison morgue by his wife. Well, that is another craziness that I did not understand, because remember, when he went into prison, he was a single man, because he had just murdered his girlfriend Nomfundo Chuhulu, and as a result, he was sentenced to life in prison after confessing to killing her. So now, why suddenly now he has a wife? We never knew about this wife before, and this wife happens to be a medical doctor, and so his wife's name is Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. She claimed that she was married to Thabo Bester through customary marriage. So if you did not know, customary marriage in South Africa is allowed. Basically, customary marriage, it is a marriage according to the African native marriage way. For example, If I want to take a wife, the first thing that I'll have to do is to go to her uncles with a letter, and after I've written a letter telling them that I'm coming over, I come over with cows. Basically, I'm coming to pay dowry to her, and once dowry is paid, then we can go to the village chief, and then the village chief will then acknowledge our customary marriage, and therefore we become husband and wife. Now in South Africa, people will start with customary marriage before they go to what is called a white wedding or a civil wedding with white veil, suits, and then a wedding ring. In the customary marriage, that does not take place at all. What matters is that you were acknowledged by the chief of the village. But in South Africa, our courts and home affairs can acknowledge your customary marriage by giving you a certificate of some sort to say you are married in customary marriage. I hope that I'm just trying to be as simple as possible with this one. I don't want to complicate it because it can be very complicated to explain. So basically, that is what this woman told the prison as well as the people of South Africa, that she is the wife of Thabo Bester by customary marriage. So crazy number 4. Around June 2022, a young woman goes to Sandton. Now, it is known as the richest square mile in Africa. So this is where the rich and the famous kind of like live in South Africa. So this young lady goes to Woolworths in Sandton, and then she spots Dr. Nandipha Magudumana together with her 2 daughters and a man. And so she takes a picture, excited, and the excitement was more for her friend, who is a fan of Dr. Nandipha. Now, Dr. Nandipha is a celebrity doctor here in South Africa. She deals with skincare. She even owns a company or a practice dealing in skincare and things like that. And so now and again, she will appear on television. And as a result of that, she became quite popular, hence the celebrity doctor. So the friend would be so excited to see the picture of Dr. Nandipha that the friend had taken for her. And so she went excitedly going to her friend and say, hey, look, I was in Sandton and guess who I saw? And I took a picture she was with her family. And then she shows this girl, Dr. Nandipha. And then when the girl looks at the picture, she's like, wait a minute. I'm not quite sure if I'm seeing things, but the man that she's with, that is my apist. And I was told or informed that he had died in a fire. So, of course, they're looking at this picture even closer and closer. The more she looks at the picture, the more it shows and confirms in her mind that that is her apist, who is supposedly dead about 2 months ago. So, of course, confused and wanting to know answers, she takes the picture and then basically takes it to a newspaper newsroom, basically to ask them to dig into this and check if she is not seeing things. So, of course, the newsroom took this picture and then they forwarded it to the Judicial Inspectorate Department of the Judiciary of South Africa, which is headed by my favorite constitutional court judge, a former constitutional court judge, Justice Cameron, who said, okay, they will look into this because as far as they know, Thabo Bester had died in the fire in his cell after he had committed the S word. But the newspaper as well, being the newspaper because they want to sell papers, they also kind of like published these pictures. And that is when we woke up in the morning to learn in 2023. Mind you, this happened in May. Is it May? Yeah, it happened in May of 2022. And we are only finding out almost a year later that this man had actually escaped prison. Now, the craziest things that we also found out about this Thabo Bester person in prison, he was running businesses. One of the businesses that he was running, and he even had a video link on a launch of a company of his called 21st Century Media, which he said was a subsidiary to 21st Century Fox. You know, the 21st Century Fox? So that's what he said. And he also was running a construction company in prison. And the company was called Orem Properties. Like, what on earth? And here's the craziest thing. So when he was launching this company, the media company called 21st Century Media, he invited A-listed celebrities of South Africa, including 2 Hollywood A-lister celebrities. That is Taraji P. Henson and Halle Berry, whom at the later stage said, oh, no, we know nothing of that nature. We were never invited to any launch in South Africa of a media company. And basically, all of that kind of caused a big hoo-ha amongst the people that bought these tickets that were costing around 1,250 Rand per person. People were really excited to see Taraji P. Henson and Halle Berry, and only to find out that was actually a scam. And Thabo Bester also was making millions of rands from behind bars, controlling a construction company. Like I said, it was called Orem Properties, where he would quote clients or unsuspecting clients of millions of rands. And as a result of that, he basically grew an empire from behind bars. He even had a video link streaming from prison wearing a suit. Now, if you, I'm sure you and I are asking the same questions, like, oh, wait, a video link from prison? Number 2, he's wearing a suit with a very expensive watch? How? Because according to South African Correctional Services Act, a prisoner, once you are incarcerated, you lose a lot of privileges and rights. One of those is running personal businesses from behind bars. You're not allowed to do that. But he was running a very, very successful company from behind bars, and it was making millions of rands, even dollars. I think I can even safely say millions of dollars. And he was calling himself Tom Motsepe, and he would even lie to people or unsuspecting clients that he is the relative of South Africa's richest black man called Patrice Motsepe. So people felt like, okay, because he's related to Patrice Motsepe being the richest man, black man in South Africa, he's legit. And so he just went on this sham scam of his, and people really, really believed him. And then his business partner, guess who it is? The woman that claimed to be his wife that came to collect his body at the Magaung Maximum Security Prison when he had died from the fire. So it is clear that this good doctor has been planning the escape of her husband for some time, because they were caught in Sandton at Woolworths shopping with Nandipha's 2 children when this girl took a photo of them, thinking that she was taking a photo of the good doctor to show her friend who loves the good doctor. Oh, by the way, Tom Motsepe was operating his businesses from New York, and as a result, he could not be at the launch physically. That is why he was video linked, or he was streaming live from New York. In fact, he was in prison. Oh yeah, I know, I can hear you asking, but how? Because that's the question I'm asking. In order for you to do something like that, there is no way that he was not assisted by the prison authorities. No way. And it is highly likely that his escape was also assisted by the prison authorities. But I don't think it was just the prison authorities. I think big people, especially politicians, are involved in this whole thing, considering the fact that he was also pretty wealthy. He had money to give in order for him to stage what he staged. So for me, it makes no sense that prison authorities would not have known that he was running a company from behind bars. So where did he get that suit? Where did he get that expensive watch? How did he manage to live stream from behind bars and address a what do you call this? A delegation of about 250 to 300 people, and they even sang him a happy birthday because the launch was on the 13th of June, his birthday. Like I said earlier, we would go with 13th of June, not the other dates that I also found on the internet. So it's crazy, guys. When you read this, it made me wonder, or at least made me think, that none of us who are free have the excuse of why we are not millionaires. If a whole prisoner serving a life sentence plus 50 years can be running a multi-million rand company, possibly a multi-million dollar company. So the rest of us, what are we doing? Why are we grinding and waking up every morning to only earn peanuts at the end of the day when a whole prisoner can basically make so much money from behind bars? So much so that he was able to buy his freedom. I believe that had this girl had not taken a photo of Dr. Nandipha with him in Woolworths in Sandton, this guy would still be a free man. Everybody would still think that Thabo Bester had died in that fire in his prison cell. So, crazy number 5, I think. So, when the story broke, once again, Thabo Bester's mother was called in for a DNA sample to be extracted out of her. And this time around, the DNAs did not match the body that was found in Thabo Bester's prison. Which now makes you wonder, oh my goodness, if all prisoners were accounted for on that day of the 3rd of May 2022, then whose poor child was that was burned beyond recognition after the fire was put out in Thabo Bester's prison cell? This is getting crazier and crazier to me. Whose child is that? And G-Force needs to come with answers and stop becoming uncooperative about their own prison, because an innocent life was lost, and we want to know who that person was and how his body came into the prison, but assisted by who. Crazy number 6, South Africans only found out just in March that Thabo Bester is actually alive, and he has been free since last year, May or so, and it's almost a year since he escaped from prison through faking his death. So now it is quite upsetting, and at the same time, many South Africans are also a little bit entertained by all of this, because how in the world did all this happen? How in the world all this happened? Yes, Thabo Bester was declared as intelligent by psychologists and psychiatrists that had a conversation with him. He's quite eloquent, and he can express himself logically as well. I've seen some videos of him as well on YouTube, where he had an interview with one of the criminal profilers called Gerald Lebach. I always have a problem with this surname since high school. Let's just say Dr. Gerald because I'm going to butcher his surname. I've always had a problem pronouncing that surname, Leboskowski. Yeah, let's leave it there and say Gerald. He had a conversation with Thabo Bester at the earlier stages of his arrest in 2011. This is where he was also trying to explain himself that it was not necessarily a murder as far as he's concerned because the intention was absent, and also the apist that he committed, he didn't think at the time while he was busy forcing himself on these women that he was actually apisting them. He also was not, he just comes up with lots of excuses, and he's quite manipulative as well from what I could tell when he was having that interview with Dr. Gerald, the criminal profilist, and it's crazy. Like I said, guys, this story is insane. There are so many other details that I did not include in this video because this is a moving target. And as the story develops, more and more new information is coming through. So that is why I am still saying that this very story that I'm telling in this video is subject to change. The information is subject to changes because of these new developments. Currently, there are stories that are breaking about Dr. Nandipha. This is this woman who claimed that she is the wife of Thabo Bester, and as things stand, Thabo Bester and the doctor are nowhere to be seen. Basically, they are officially declared fugitives from the law. So that kind of like confirms that is Thabo Bester, and also confirms that Dr. Nandipha is involved in this elaborate scheme that was formulated by Thabo Bester. Probably she's the mastermind behind the escape. I don't know. I'm not saying she is, but Thabo Bester is quite creative. So it's possible that he did this all by himself. Now, the interesting part, or crazy number 7, is that the real Thabo Bester has come out to say, I want my life back. I'm the real Thabo Bester. So now, this man that we know as Thabo Bester, who on earth is he? Where does it come from? What's his background? And who are the people that helped him escape from prison? Let's start with the people that helped him establish a business from prison and gave him access to the internet, laptop, as well as all these other things that he was able to run a multi-million rand company from behind bars. So I, for one, I want to know I have so many questions, like, how many people are involved behind this story? Number 2, whose child was that was found in that cell that was burned beyond recognition? And I also would like to know from the South African Correctional Services why we are only hearing of Thabo Bester's escape now. Why this story was swept under the carpet or suppressed or whatever the case is, which kind of like brings me to my own suspicions that powerful people are involved because Thabo Bester had money and he was able to bribe them, and which, if it's true, then I don't think Thabo Bester is going to be found by the police. And many people also don't believe that he's going to be found by the police, but he is going to be found by the people that helped him escape. And it is not going to be a good thing for him to be caught by those people because they are not going to bring him alive. That is just my opinion. Because if they bring him alive, he is going to sing like a canary. And a lot of people are going to find themselves in trouble with the law. So they definitely not going to bring him alive and kicking, definitely, including Dr. Nandipha, because clearly she was working or she knew powerful people who were going to be able to assist her to get her man out of prison, by means of the way they did. And my other question, how many other prisoners that have escaped, that were helped to escape a similar way as Thabo Bester? Because I don't think Thabo Bester is the first, and certainly probably not the last. So overall, who is responsible? Is it the correctional services, or is it G-Force that guards the prison? I am saying all of them. Bring them here. Let them answer the questions as to what exactly happened, why it happened, and why they think that was a good thing to do, especially a man that is so dangerous to women. He murdered a girl, an innocent woman. He also apist many women in Durban, Cape Town, and Johannesburg. Why would he be let out? Because clearly something is not right upstairs. And another thing that I felt really, really bad about was Dr. Nandipha's daughters. How many times has he thought of harming them if he has not harmed them yet? So I don't know. There's just too many stuff going on. I have so many questions, and I doubt that we'll ever get the answers of these questions, especially if the people that helped him escape catches him first. Well, that is it with this story, guys. Like I said, it is a developing story. He is not caught yet. We don't know where he is, but definitely he will get caught, and we will probably hear the full story from the horse's mouth, hopefully, because he tends to confess once he is caught, that he does confess, and also drop some names as to who are these powerful people that helped him. So I invite you to leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of this story. What are your thoughts about this whole thing? Do you think he was helped? Do you think no, he was helped? Let me know. Just let me not put you through that. He was helped, but please let me know of your thoughts about this crazy story. If you enjoyed this story, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click the bell notification so that you do not miss out on any of my new true crime uploads. I'd highly appreciate it if you share this video far and wide. Guys, once again, if I could remind you, when you like a video, you are actually helping my channel to get discovered by more people on the platform. So by giving a like, you basically be helping me a lot. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time with a new video. Goodbye. For her job. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. So he would meet these women, and then so when he meet. So anyways, guys, as I have said, that he is also known. No. So guys, it has been which was a subsidiary to 21st Century Fox.